Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I am your host. This week's episode is with Ramiro Antonio Perez. Thank you for being here, Ramiro. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're inside. It's actually nice outside. I don't know when it's supposed to actually start getting cold, but I'm cool with it. Yeah, I wanted to have you on. We just met over like the past year, probably.
Yes.
And I wanted to give you an opportunity to share some of your story. I know you got a lot we could talk about, so we kind of talked about that beforehand just because we could probably do like a 2-hour episode.
Probably.
If you want to. And,
Yep.
Trying to keep things a little bit shorter because everybody like me is attention spans are low. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
This will be a 5-minute video.
This will be a 5-minute clip. And that's it. But yeah, man, I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. You're from the area, right?
Yes, born and raised on the east side of Davenport, down by Wonder Bread. I'm still living there. It was a house I grew up in and then inherited from my mother when she passed away. I mean, I can go into a whole thing about the house. It's crazy. I mean, I could just start there with my story, if you'd like me to.
I'm going to adjust you just a little bit.
All right. So, right around 2005, I graduated from Ambrose at, I think I was 26.
Back a little bit, yeah.
Moved back?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a little bit.
And I had met my wife, Kelly, in 2004. I was working at a bar, and I was just, partying and well, whatever. But my mom was dying at the time. From cancer, but she had cancer for 15 years. Like ever since I was 12, maybe she was battling just battling cancer. But she was, and like sometimes I'll post on Facebook that she was the strongest person I knew because she was I believe a CNA or just I don't know what above. She wasn't a registered nurse yet, but she was working down at CHC, and but she went to school while she was battling cancer. She moved to Milwaukee there's a nursing school up there or whatever, while she was doing that. And, I mean, she basically worked up until she couldn't work anymore. Like, she never was like, oh, woe is me. Like, never. But anyways, when she passed away, I graduated from Ambrose. I have a bachelor's in marketing and then a minor in economics. But I graduated, and then I believe it was like a week later she died. And I knew that I was going to be inheriting some stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much money I was actually going to inherit.
Yeah, because she's probably very
because it was
frugal.
It was just me and my mom. Growing up, my father. I have a great relationship with my dad, just to preface it. But he left when I was in the second grade.
Mm-hmm. So you lived with your mom?
Yeah, it was just me and my mom, and I'm the only kid. I have a sister now from my dad's marriage, and I love everything about that whole situation. At first, when I was a little kid, I didn't know how to react. Yeah, but anyways, my mom passed away. I inherited a lot of money. And
how old were you?
26.
Scary time to get a lot of money.
Yeah, and I was already in kind of the nightlife, party life.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't DJing anywhere at the time, but I was still, I DJ'd in I DJ'd in my bedroom for like almost 10 years before I even had the confidence to like, hey, does anybody want to hire me to DJ? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's
just messing around.
Yeah,
and fun.
Yeah, but she passed away, and I inherited all this money, and I was like, well, okay, now I'm gonna have my own DJ business, and I bought all this equipment, and but then when I started working at the nightclub, it was Lucky's up at the Steeplegate. The bar back had a very great ecstasy connection. And I just started blowing money. I mean, it was just I'll just go ahead and say I went from $250,000 to nothing within 2 years, maybe even a year.
Oof.
Yeah, and a lot of it was gambling too.
Yeah,
I
that'll-
mean, yeah, I mean, I would just get very. I was always a stimulant type person. I was never really like a cocaine addict. I was at a time, but anyways,
whatever you got.
yeah, whatever you got. I
Yeah.
never did heroin or
Yeah.
smoked crack, but yeah, it was just after that. I had my first child, and then I started working in nightclubs.
Were you
And
still with the same woman?
yes,
whole
yes,
time?
I was with Kelly the whole time, and I I got this huge ego. I think a lot of it was the attention that I never got in high school, just period, and I didn't know how to react to. I couldn't control myself basically to all the attention I was getting on top of the drugs that I was doing, and I did a lot of bad things during that time, as far as infidelity, lying, stealing. And it just all built up to this head where I started
So
losing.
you're untouchable.
I thought I was untouchable, but then it came to a point where I started losing every single thing, and it was just like, you lost this, you lost this, you lost this, and I was working at a DJ shop that's in the area, and I was co-managing that place, and that's when I was really bad. Like, that was one of the last jobs that I had, and it was just me and another gentleman running the place, and his father had passed away, and I kind of like, he took his father's spot, and then I took his spot in the business. His father was nice enough to give me an opportunity, and I did the thing that I told myself that I would never do, and that is steal from somebody who's real. I always had this attitude that, oh yeah, you can steal from stores, blah blah blah, that's okay, but I would never do it to somebody that's real.
Yeah, you had a line.
Yeah, and it got bad. It got really bad quick. It got so bad that I obviously had to fess up to it,
Yeah.
and then he actually let me keep the job after I fessed up to it.
Wow.
And then I think it was maybe a day or two later, I caught myself doing the same thing.
Oh shit.
And I said, I can't work here anymore. I can't control myself.
Good call.
And then after that, that's when I think that's when my wife left, and we were separated for a good year. She actually moved out of the house that we were living in, and so I was living in our family house by myself, and I just went downhill real quick. And that's when I started. I was doing a lot of cocaine, and then the cocaine that I was getting wasn't any good. And this friend of mine that I hung.
Classic. Classic.
Yeah, this friend of mine, he was always smoking meth, and like I said, the cocaine wasn't any good anymore. So I was like, all right, yeah. So I tried that, and it was on, and then we learned how to make it. And that's when I turned into like this weird hermit where I, had all the windows in my house covered with blankets, and then I'd be cooking dope in the house. But the weird thing is that I was just by myself. I never, after that friend that, like, we had a falling out, whatever, but so I was just by myself in my house cooking dope, and then me and my wife got back together somehow, and I moved into her place, and I was clean for a little bit, and then I think I went back to my house, and I found a foil, because I would smoke it on foils, and I found a foil up where I would hide them. And it still had dope on it, and I was clean. And then I was just like, and then after that, the thing about addictions is that and not everybody knows, but it truly progressively gets worse.
Yep.
And it got so bad, I was actually on probation for the theft from that business that I worked for. And I stopped seeing. I booked on my probation officer twice. I mean, it's just so weird talking about the things that I used to do, because it's just like I'll tell my therapist, and he's just like, I can't believe you were like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying.
And
I know some people that have done some reckless stuff, and they've told me, and I know them now, like they've been clean for a while. And I'm like, no way.
right, yeah, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I took a shit behind the Aldi's on Brady Street because I passed out in a car on my car in 15th Street. I passed out. And a cop actually came up and like knocked on the window while I was sleeping, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was just like, well, "All right, we'll just get out of here." And I think I fell back asleep, or I moved my car, or whatever. I think it ran out of fuel. That's what it was. Like, oh, that's what it was. But anyways, I woke up. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I start walking up Main. Yeah, it's Main Street.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, KFC. And I'm just battling. I can't believe I'm talking about this, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I'm like, wait a minute, it's only 9:00. KFC's not open. Oh. And I'm just like, oh. And I see a trailer, and then the ramp goes down so the trailers can have space or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, I can go back there, and man. And so I always think about that. I'm like, have you ever taken a shit behind Aldi's? You know?
Yeah. That was my rock bottom.
That was kind of,
Yeah,
but that was that. I think that
close.
that was pretty close. But anyways, like I said, me and my wife got back together. I relapsed, and then I started cooking dope again. And I still had the property here in Davenport. She lived out closer to Buffalo or whatever, Bluegrass. And I would go to my house and go up in the attic and cook dope. And I had squatters living there because I was in a relationship before I got back with my wife that I let this other girl live in my house while I was back with my wife, and she kept saying that she was going to pay me rent. I'm like, you're going to have to pay me rent here soon. But it basically, she was squatting in my house, and I was just letting it slide because I was cooking dope in the attic. So anyways, I think it was that week I told the girl, hey, you're going to need to start giving me money to live here. And she, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So then a couple days later, I go there and I'm like, I'm gonna go up in the attic. I would never tell them what I was doing, but I'm like, I'm gonna go up the attic and clean out the attic because that was always my excuse. My attic was always a mess. And I went up there, cooked dope, drove back to my wife's place to pick her up, and I think I took what I had just made and I put it under my youngest daughter's bed because I knew I was going to come back before my youngest daughter came back to grab it, whatever. As soon as I pull out of the property and onto 61 South, 61 South, two squads pull up behind me, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah. And they're like, just stay here, blah blah blah. And they pulled me out, and I'm like, what's going on? I know I haven't seen my probation officer in a while. And they're like, and then they finally like, we're investigating meth lab, and I'm just like, whew. And they took, or I basically was just like, all right, yeah, that's what I was doing. They were like, were you at a high V, the low V, buying pseudos? And I'm like, yep. And what did you? I said, I basically told them everything I told you. I went there, boom, boom, boom. That's where everything's at. I fessed up right there, then and there, and that's I don't know. I hope to never be in that situation again because they're always like, don't say nothing to the cops and whatever. I don't really give a shit.
And you weren't rolling on anyone but yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where the other situation comes in. With me being locked up in county for a year and a half. When I got locked up, I was facing 60 years. So my wife, we were actually divorced at the we're still divorced, for financial reasons. But she completely cut me off. I think she showed up the next day after I got locked up, just like, what the fuck, man? And I can't even imagine how she was feeling, and my kids, for fuck's sakes. They were, I think my youngest was pretty young. She was maybe 4, 5, and then my oldest was maybe 8, 9, I don't know, whatever. But So, anyways, I was facing 60 years, so my wife thought everything was over and done with as far as me being of any existence, basically. And I don't fault her for that at all, because I don't, I mean, I fucked her over so hard. Um, it's just amazing, where I'm at today. But I was in county for a year and a half because the what do they call him, the DA, the district attorney or whatever. She actually is the district attorney of Scott County now, Kelly Cunningham. I actually saw her at. I wanted to thank her almost for keeping me in there that long. Um, it was torture. I actually not torture in a sense. Like, Scott County Jail is like the nicest jail you can be in. Like, it's almost like I compare it to the Radisson. Like, that's how nice it is for a jail.
Oh, really?
It's very nice. They have a lot of nice programs, but psychologically, it's still
jail.
It's still jail. It's still pretty bad. I didn't get to go outside, breathe fresh air, see the sun for a year and a half. Ugh. And like you mentioned before, it's like, just send me to prison.
Yeah.
But that whole time I was fighting to get into a program called drug court.
Yep.
If you're familiar with the drug court program. Yeah. So I kept writing. Jeff Fall. Shout out to Jeff Fall. But I kept writing Jeff Fall. He was a probation officer. He's now retired. I've messed up. And you would just write these letters and send them in and just keep hoping. And I kept seeing people that had lesser charges than me, or had worse charges than I did, get accepted into it, go to prison, come back, and I was still sitting in county, and they got accepted into drug court. So I was just kind of like, what the hell's going on? And so basically what it came down to was that they were trying to see if anybody would roll on me, or, because I didn't have anybody to roll on, because I was doing all the purchasing of everything. I didn't have people buying me pills. This wasn't Breaking Bad. I was just making enough to get to the next purchase of pseudos, because you can only buy so much within a period of time.
Yeah.
And
now it's like even harder.
I don't even know.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But they were trying to see if, because at that time there was a lot of people getting busted for cooking dope, but they were like operations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so they were trying to see if anybody was going to involve me in it so that they could make themselves look better. I don't know.
Yeah, build their case.
Right. But regardless, I think if I hadn't have gone through all that, I wouldn't, I guess, be where I'm at today. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I was in there for a year and a half. I finally get accepted into the drug court program. And at the time, you had to go live at the adult rehab center, the Salvation Army, there on Brady and Kimberly, pretty much. And I lived there for a year. And I was scared to leave that rehab center because I was so institutionalized.
Complacent.
And not complacent. I didn't.
You were just like, you had that structure.
I had the structure, but I didn't know what I was gonna like. I had a friend that I was locked up with in county, and he always said, "I'm gonna get you a job because my dad owns a construction company. I'm gonna get you a job." Excuse me. And so I get out, and as soon as I get out of the rehab center, that friend let me move in with him. Got me a job. My father got me a car, and so I actually had something. It's like he helped me start somewhere, because I was so afraid. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go work at Long John Silver's? I honestly didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know where I was gonna start at, starting my life back over. And my wife at the time was with someone else, and they were talking about getting married, and that was my biggest battle throughout the whole thing, was not having my wife and kids in the picture. But like I totally understood why everything happened the way it did, and I don't.
It still sucks.
It did. It sucked really bad, and I tell her when I can, like, I don't fault you for anything that you did.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's all my fault. You know what I'm saying? Um, but so I get out, and this was in 2016, and I start working. I start building my life back together, um, and then me and my wife get back together. You know, like she had a falling out with the man that she was with, and me and my wife get back together. And then within a couple months, she actually sold the house that I had to sign the house over to my wife, my ex-wife, while I was locked up, just to get that girl kicked out of my house because I couldn't do it locked up.
Squatters' rights.
Yes, and so after I signed the house over to her, she ended up selling the house. And I lost a lot of stuff, and sometimes that still stings. But she didn't know what to do at the time because I was facing time, dude. You know, I was facing serious time. So, anyways, you know, we get back together, we move back into the house, and I pretty much quickly move up the ladder in the construction world, just by doing what I'm supposed to do, showing up to work every day, being honest.
Yeah.
Just doing what doing what you're supposed to do as far as kind of how I look at it now. I was kind of like a robot, you know what I'm saying? But like the whole time it was just like, you got to have integrity, dude. You got to have integrity. Like that's my biggest thing is having integrity and not, I have the, I don't know how many people have the opportunity to say that they have no skeletons in the closet anymore. Because when I got busted, I mean, everything was out. Everything that I was doing, and like I'll tell anybody, ask me, I'll tell you what I did. You know, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not glad that it happened, but I guess it just had to happen for me to be where I am today. You know what I'm saying? And so but during those years where I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing, my mind was doing this thing where it was like, hey, you suck. What did you do? You fucked everything up, you know? You should be here. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And and this was up until like a year and a half ago. I mean, and I'm not boasting or anything, but I'm driving an $80,000 company truck, and I'm managing a business for the owner of the business, and it's just me and another guy. That's what I currently do. So I don't answer to anybody. You know, me and the owner of the business, we talk maybe once a year. We'll probably start talking more often here soon, but so I had all this freedom. I was making good money. But I still was just like, dude, you suck. You know, like what?
Still had that.
Yeah, just like, dude, you're not. Why don't you have that? Why don't you have your own truck? Why don't you have a Mustang?
Never good enough.
Nothing's ever good enough. You know. Like, why isn't your basement finished? Like, just stupid shit like that.
I feel the same way about my basement.
And I was, and dude, it got to a point where I would come home and just start nitpicking stuff and trying to micromanage what my wife was doing at the house, and just being a complete asshole. And it got to a point where I was somewhat aware of how I was acting, but I really wasn't, because my wife goes, you know what? I don't look forward to you coming home anymore. And that was just like, shit. I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm like, all right, I know I need to go get therapy because I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so I think I waited a month, and I finally got in, or I finally got up off my ass and went. And yeah, it was just so weird because before I started therapy, like maybe even a week before or something, I would get real angry and say hurtful things, and then afterwards, you know, I'd be like, Kelly, I don't know why I'm like this. Like, what's wrong with me, you know? And so I started going to therapy, and I got on. I used to be on Paxil back when I was doing all this dumb stuff, but it was also mixed in with
Yeah, you know.
ecstasy,
Yeah.
meth. So it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do in anyways. But anyways, I got back on Paxil. I went to therapy, and I lucked out. I say that I lucked out. I don't know, but me and him get along great. Like when I walked in, and he's like, what are you looking for?" And I said, "I'm looking for the relationship that, um, what's his nuts, the Goodwill Hunting." You know, I'm
Yeah.
looking for that type of relationship with my therapist. I want you,
That Matt
yeah,
Damon, Robin Williams.
yes,
Vibe.
exactly. I
Yeah.
want you to be Robin Williams,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it is, you know. Um, but it's crazy, talking about just talking to someone who's not your wife, who's not your friend, and being a like every time I go to talk to him, I remember things that I did in the past, bad things or good things, things that just were blocked.
Linger.
Yeah, were blocked out of my memory, I guess. And I don't know, but I would say it was last May that I started therapy, and I just came to I don't know if I think it's just a mixture of the medication that I'm on and talking to somebody. I had no confidence. That's basically what it boiled down to, was that I didn't have any confidence because I constantly was thinking that I was a failure,
Yeah.
even though I wasn't. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I consider myself to be a successful person, professionally, but I didn't think I was. I still thought I was a piece of
Were you
shit.
comparing yourself to other people?
Always,
Always.
always. You know, like why? Like I said, I was always comparing myself to other people,
Yeah.
and especially
Very, very common.
yeah, and then another thing was, in that whole time, that the 6-7 years, I didn't had no interest in DJing. Like my wife even bought me a little cheap controller, and I had Serato, and I would get on it and try to dick around. I'm like, this is boring.
You didn't feel it.
I didn't feel it, and I don't, like I said, I think it was a combination of the therapy and the medication that I started regaining my confidence and saying to myself, "Hey, dude, you are good enough." And then I learned the whole, how, what people say, you're your worst enemy. What it
Mhm.
to me your subconscious is constantly trying to tell you that you're a piece of shit.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I try telling my youngest daughter, because she has a lot she has a lot of the same qualities that I have when I was her age, but she's super overachiever. She's a great dancer. She's in sports. I mean, she's amazing. 14 years old, has a job too. But
Wow.
yeah, and there it goes.
But yeah, you were talking about your just like the comparison and the
Yeah,
telling yourself you're a piece of shit.
right, yeah, and I was telling her that you can't, don't ever listen to the voice inside your head that's telling you that you're not good enough or making you doubt things, and just the whole confidence thing is crazy to me, because I always wanted to emulate my father, because my father always can just go up to anybody and talk to people.
Mm.
And I was like, man, why am I not like my dad?
Yeah.
And that's what I told my therapist when I first started seeing him. I was like, I want to be like my dad, as far as, and I haven't even told my dad this, you know, but shit.
You said you're trying to. You're talking about your dad, and you're telling your therapist about how you wanted to be like him, and how he approaches people and can just like.
Yeah.
Is he one of those guys that doesn't know a stranger? One of those type of guys, like just.
Yeah, he'll just go up to anybody.
just shoot
I
the
mean, like,
shit.
yeah, like if we're at a baseball game or something like that.
You're good, man.
But but I started. Shit. Hold on. All right. I'm gonna bring up Wake.
Yeah. No, you're good, man.
I was just thinking about my dad.
He's still alive, right?
Excuse me.
You're good.
So, Wake has the Wax On, Wax Off Wednesdays, and I only had one crate of records.
For those people that aren't local, what is
Yeah.
Wake? So they know. Yeah.
Wake is a brewery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Wake is a brewery here in Rock Island. Excuse me. But anyways, they every Wednesday they have a thing where people can sign up for 20 minutes to spin records and spin whatever they want. And I would go there. I'd ride my bike over there that summer when I was going through therapy, trying to work things out. And I would never talk to anybody. I would just ride my bike over there and get something from when Dark Side was open. And so just eat, and then I would go outside. I'd get a beer, and I'd go outside and sit by myself outside. You know, and like that's the type of person I was. Excuse me, I keep doing that. So I was like, oh, finally, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna go there. And I went there, and like I said, all I had left was one case of records. It was called maybe 30 records, and it was amazing. It was like when people say it's like riding a bike. It was like riding a bike, and to this day, with the amount of records that I had and the music that I played and the fact that I could actually still mix all the music with not having touched a turntable in, fuck, man, I don't know how long it was, over 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I ended up pawning my turntables. I pawned everything that I had when I was an addict.
Yeah.
But like I said, I to this day, that set was so organic, and I don't think I could ever recreate it. But so I started doing that, and then I think right after that,
Wheels turning.
yeah, and another very important thing about this past year was when I was going through my therapy for drug addiction. I was working the 12 steps, and I worked the 12 steps, but I hadn't made my amends completely to everybody, and it's almost been a year to the day that I made the amends to the gentleman that I co-managed that business with, that I stole from, and I felt I got off work and I just felt weird, man. I felt empty, and I'm like, I gotta fucking do this. I gotta reach out to him and be like, look, dude, yes, it was weighing on me bad. So I reached out to him, and he messaged me back, and we've seen each other here and there, and it's kind of like we see each other and we kind of just like look each other and smile.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if he just kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
But we're cool. In that sense, you know. But
you don't expect him to be your best friend.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also a very successful DJ. Here locally. He's amazing. He's an amazing person. If he is listening, you are amazing. But after I made that amends with him and reached out to him, that weight, like everything just like 180, just like you know, it's just like, oh my God, I feel alive. You know, and they talk about the 12 step, and my dumbass had to look up what the 12 step was a couple weeks ago because I forgot what it was.
That happens.
And it's a spiritual awakening. And I'll go ahead and say I'm an atheist, but I think you know, any type of spirituality that you feel is all in your head, regardless. But I had this spiritual awakening within myself where it's just like, you know, I'm not ashamed of myself anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, that as soon as I made those amends, I knew that I could not hide or walk around with my tail in between my legs anymore. And I think that's what it was. That was a big thing since I've been out of jail that was weighing on me, that maybe at the time I really wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
there's a reason the 9 steps 9. So yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's crazy, and you know, the weird thing about Scott County is that when you're in the drug court program, you have to go to so many meetings,
Yep.
and really the only meetings worth going to around here are the AA meetings for the Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not an alcoholic. I do drink. Um, I'm California sober. However, natural, anything natural.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm a saint.
Yeah.
But I'm in control of myself finally. I know what my boundaries are. I'm not the type of person never say never, but I'm at a point in my life that the I guess I actually have a conscience now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, I didn't care what I was doing because I was either always so messed up or there's just something going on in my head. But it's, ever since I got back into DJing and I made a post on Facebook, I didn't have to, but basically kind of a summary of my story saying what happened to me because a lot of people that might have been following me went back when I was DJing because I was kind of successful back in the day. I produced for me back then, I produced a commercial for 93.5 or whatever radio station it was. My name was on the radio. Like that to me, that's cool.
Yeah.
I got hired I was probably one of the first people in Iowa to be hired by Serato for a contract for a gig at North Park Mall, and they were going to have me do it. That was like the beginning of the ending of everything when I got contracted by Serato, but because they were contacting me to go to Des Moines and stuff, and I'm just like, no, I'd rather get high,
Yeah, priorities.
Exactly. So I was getting there back then, and that was another reason why I was always beating myself up. It's just kind of like, man, you fucked everything up. You could have been on MTV. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't feel that way anymore. I'm kind of the person that like just I obviously care, but I don't care about those things anymore. Like as far as DJing, if I get to DJ, I'd rather DJ somewhere for free than not DJ at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that the same way about comedy.
Yeah, and so like if I don't have a paid gig at some nightclub, I'd rather, play somewhere else for free just so I can, because I have so much fun doing it, and each time I do it, I honestly get better.
Yeah.
So
Totally feel that.
yeah, and as far as like I said, I just go around doing the right thing, you know, not crossing boundaries with people, and and just being an honest person, and also the other thing that's really important, like if you're out with if you have a clique, is not getting involved. Like it's really really freeing to be married. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's and I don't think a lot of people can say that, because I think right now in my relationship with my wife, I mean it's just every day, and every day it gets better. And it's the same way I feel about my life. Is like every day it just somehow gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Not lying. Being honest, not lying. And that's what I told my daughter. I was like, my 14-year-old daughter backed into a car last week, and we just found out about it. And I said to her, I said, you know that feeling that you had when you backed into that car and then you just drove off and did what you were supposed to do, and then you came back home and you just had this feeling? And you've probably had this feeling up until I asked you about it. That's what lying does to you. If you're lying to people, hiding stuff from people, gossiping about people, you're going to have this shitty feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Something's always going to be weighing.
Unless you're a complete psychopath. But yeah.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And that was my thing, was that, I was always lying, cheating, stealing. And like you said, I was getting away with a lot of it for a long time, so I thought I was untouchable. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it was always that dreadful feeling. It's gonna catch up to me eventually, and it caught up to me in almost the worst way. And like I tell my daughter, like I tell her, I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be here, Allie.
Yeah.
So
I feel that way
a
lot. Yeah. Yeah, the honesty, dude. Like when you were talking about sharing, and finally, apologizing or
Yeah.
making your amends. I like the word amends better than apologizing. Just because it's more than just saying sorry. Like it's legitimately like being like, this is what I did. This is what I did wrong, and how can I make it right?
Yeah. And the other thing about the amends that I made with him was that I don't think I've technically said I'm sorry to him. You know what I'm saying? I reached out to him and was just like, "Hey, is it okay that I come over? You know, obviously I think it was obviously I need to apologize to you about everything that I've done."
Yeah.
But and I think we ran into each other at that martini shake off.
Oh yeah.
It was funny. This girl spilled a drink on my hand, and I went like this, and then I looked at her, and then he's standing right next to her, and we were just like, what, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we were both just kind of shocked. So and then it wouldn't have been the right place anyways. But I think if we ever did finally run into each other, where it was just me and him, I would hope he would want to at least talk to me, and maybe I could, really say I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think I've reached out. Like, that's what they say. You reach out to them. You do your part.
Yeah.
I
Your side of the street.
yes, I did my part. I reached out to him, and however he wanted to accept it
Yeah.
is what it is. Yeah. And but I still, and like I said, nothing weighs on me anymore about that. But I still would like to, properly, I guess. But I guess there's really no proper way to do anything in life, is there?
Yeah, there's no handbook on
Yeah,
that, no.
yeah, and that's what like going back to the situation with my daughter wrecking a car. I was telling my wife was freaking out about it. I'm like, honey, we don't know what we're doing here. We've never had this happen to us, and my wife's never been the type to take her parents' car. I took my mom's car once when I was like 12, and my stepsisters, I believe their cousins would always take their cars when they were like 15, and so I'm like telling my wife, I'm like, kids kind of do this dumb shit, you know what I'm saying? But if it happened, like, and then I said, Allie, if don't ever you can, but don't ever make the same mistake twice. And that's another way I try to live my life, is not to make the same mistake twice, because I did it for too long. I don't know.
Yeah. Learning from those mistakes. And yeah. Oh my God. I was so scared to take my parents' car. I never did it, but I know so many people who did that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was so common. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, at that age. At least she was, 14's. Yeah, luckily, she knew kind of how to drive.
Yeah, she's got. Yeah, that's the thing, is that she has her permit,
Okay,
and
yeah.
we'll let her drive every once in a while.
Yeah.
She's actually in class now, or tomorrow she will. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, at that age, I used to be a kleptomaniac when I was 12 to 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the grimy shit that I used to do when I was a little kid, and that was the other thing, is just like, why didn't you tell us? I confronted her about it. I prefaced it by saying, I said, honey, you need to understand that I don't get mad about like serious things. Like if it's something serious, like I won't get, like my dumbass gets mad about having to, wait in the car. Like my anxiety, like the only type of anxiety I get now is like driving, like I hate to say this, but she knows, like I have to drive my daughter around a lot of places, and sometimes she's got so much going on that she'll forget, and then she'll say, oh, I need to do this, and then I'll just like,
I did not plan for this.
That, or like the first time I took her to her driver's ed, she forgot her ID or driver's permit, and like stupid shit like that makes me mad.
Yeah.
But like something serious, like I was like, don't be scared to tell us something, because I used to be that way when I was a kid. For some reason, I was scared of my mom, and my mom wasn't mean, and but I guess I just always had that.
You don't want to let her down.
I think, yeah. I guess, I don't know. Like I was just it was like I was a good kid on the surface, but I used to change my report card. Like at Assumption, they used to print out. It was like a dot matrix. They would print out your grades, and so I would turn D's into B's and F's into B's, and I learned it from somebody else, but we would do it, and it would look perfect. And what I would do is then I'd photocopy it, and then give it to my mom. Like I was so intuitive with just the dumbest shit. You know what I'm saying? Or
I forgot you went to Assumption. That's
yeah, class of '96.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I went back there for a game for one of my daughter's games.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's weird. I want to go back through the hallways and stuff like that. I just want to smell it. You know. That's all,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it hasn't changed that much. It's they still don't have AC there. It's insane. Remember that August?
Kinda. I don't remember much from high school. I mean, I do remember bits and pieces of it, but I was basically one of like 3 people of color at Assumption.
Oh yeah, that's how it works.
And I don't know. I was always like the stoner kid, like the whole time at Assumption.
Yeah.
And then like when I was a senior, by the time I became a senior, like that's when stoner culture was in, you know, and everybody.
Then you were cool.
Then I was cool, you know, and
I've been doing this the whole time.
right. Yeah. But yeah, and like I'll run into old classmates and say if this was 2 years ago, I would just kind of like, but now I'll like come up to them and be like, hey, you know.
Yeah.
And that's
because you were probably comparing yourself to them.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Oh, look at this person. They got their own business. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, look at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't care anymore. That's the thing. The only thing I care about is my wife and kids, and just making sure that they're okay. That's the
You have your son's older?
No, I have 2 daughters. I got an
You have
18-year-old. Yeah, I have an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. And like that's all I care about. I don't care about money. I don't care. I honestly don't let other outside forces bother me. And going back to anxiety, the other thing that gives me anxiety is other people's anxiety. Ooh. Like if another person's, you can tell that their anxiety, they have bad anxiety.
Yeah.
But like my anxiety turns into anger. You know, it's weird.
Mine can do that too.
Yeah. So my anxiety, like every time, just turns into anger.
You just get irritable.
I get very irritable. Yeah. I kind of get like this, just kind of like, you know.
And you get mad about dumb shit.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
Yep. And you're just walking on eggshells around yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I care about.
Well, you learn that in therapy, though.
Yeah.
A lot of that. And how often do you go to therapy? Are you a weekly guy?
I was weekly. Now I see him maybe 2 times a month. I'm gonna go see him tomorrow or Tuesday. Or no, I'm sorry, Monday or Tuesday.
I was like, you got a Sunday guy? Where you?
Yeah, right. No.
Where you finding Sunday guys?
No, no, and that's the thing that kind of pisses me off is that I'm fortunate enough to have decent insurance.
Yeah.
And
more rare.
Yeah, and it makes me angry that there's people that, you know, I'm not saying that I don't need therapy, but I think there's people that need it more than me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but they can't get help. You know what I'm saying? Or it's gonna be 2 months till we can help you. Maybe 2 months is too late. You know?
I totally agree with you on that. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess you know, I do kind of let things like that kind of bother me as far as you know, people not being able to get help. And I don't know. It's been a big thing in this past year with I give all the credit to obviously myself, but the therapy and again the medication has to be doing something, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm like I said, every day as somehow keeps getting better, and honestly, I've and not to be morbid, but like I've even accepted my death. Like I don't care if I die. You know, it's just it is what it is. It's life. You know.
But you're not living that lifestyle where you're like
right.
Because there's a different way to look at that. Like if you're like in active addiction, like, I don't care if I die. That's like a dark, morbid.
Right. Yeah.
You're just like okay.
It's more in the sense like it's okay. It's okay if I die.
I'm not living with regrets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's the way to look at it.
Yeah,
that I don't have any questions about things, and yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know this older lady from recovery who said something recently about, she's getting older, so, and, I had a lot of friends pass away, and she's just like, I'm living every day like it's my last. I'm like, hell yeah.
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of how you got to do it, man. You don't know. Even if whether you're 25 or 75.
Yeah. And that's and have you heard this, that people who are I guess creatives,
Yeah.
uh, creatives and perfectionists, which we tend to be.
Yeah.
That if you get, like, I smoke a lot of cigarettes, and I do need to quit, and I always tell myself that.
So
Yeah, like before
I'm
the end
glad
of
I never got hooked on cigarettes. I don't know how. I didn't, but
yeah, like before the end of the year, like I seriously need to quit because it's expensive, and it's obviously not good for you.
no.
But like, talk about progressive addictions. Like I've gone from 1 pack to 2 packs a day, but then I rationalize it by the fact that I get up at 4 a.m. every day, and
Had a long day.
yeah, and I don't go to bed till like 10. So that's a lot of cigarettes to smoke.
Yeah.
But the thing with creatives is that we got to be perfectionists at everything, and we also, if you're into addiction, you want to be the best addict there is, and I think that's basically what it came down to with my meth addiction, that I wanted to be the best goddamn meth addict that there is, and that's kind of the attitude that I had that I didn't really realize until now. But yeah, it's just. And it's just
like, I'm not gonna end up like these guys.
exactly, but it's just kind of weird how the mind works. Where I can have a drink, I can drink socially, and there's people that just can't fucking do that.
No.
And what's crazy is that boggles my mind as an addict. Like it.
Like, why am I able to do this?
Yeah, why am I able to do this? But then again, then I think about it. I'm like, well, they don't sell meth at stores. They don't have bars that you can go do meth at. You know what I'm saying? So imagine how hard it is for an alcoholic to just live life.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
So accessible. It's
Yeah, and the fact that there's no stigmas attached to it, really. When you think about it, in society, there's no stigmas other than somebody died, drunk driver, and when people die, a lot of people die every fucking day from drinking. Yeah. And nobody really cares. It's just kind of I could go into this whole thing of how the system works and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna.
I need to have a conspiracy episode though, for sure. I've been talking about it for a long time. I've had so many people on that are like had to stop themselves, like you just did.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like going down the rabbit hole, but it's like maybe I need to start a different podcast for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much to go off of. Because when I first started the podcast, I didn't know what I wanted it to be. I knew I wanted to call it Modern Day Overthinker because I just liked that name. And it was always just stuck in my head. But I was like, what am I going to focus on? There's so many things I could talk about. And yeah, conspiracy theories was one of the things that I was like, And then I was like, okay, there's enough of that going on. And the biggest feedback I've gotten is like, you're a dude running a podcast where you generally talk about mental health, where it's like, the funniest part is, like, most of my listeners are women.
Yeah.
Because women tend to... There's still that stigma with men on mental health. It's getting better, and people are being more proactive about going to therapy and talking about, guys have feelings too. You need to fucking hide them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like I don't know if it's a sixth sense or sixth sense.
Yeah.
But like I can immediately, not immediately, but if I'm around people enough, like I can pretty much tell what their anxiety triggers are, if they are that type of person and if they need therapy. But I would never be like, hey, dude, you need to go see a therapist. And that's kind of the tough part, where you can't be like, hey, dude, you should probably go see a therapist. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And a lot of it.
There's only been a few times where I've said that to people.
Yeah, and it's the thing is that people aren't aware. You're usually not aware that you're being a certain way at work or acting a certain way, and a lot of it boils down to anxiety or people projecting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
Yeah, some people don't necessarily need a therapist per se, but just they need to get honest
Yeah,
because they're sitting with that, whatever it is.
exactly. Yeah.
And like I'm gotten to a point with people where like, I know I've always had people overshare with me anyway,
Yeah.
and people will sometimes apologize. I'm like, don't,
Right.
like just don't. Like I don't. I'm not. I'm like the last person that's gonna judge you. I've heard so many messed up things that people have done, and I obviously done some messed up stuff in my life, and it's just like, as long as you're owning it and trying to get better, that's what's important to me.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that I mean, if you Google my full name, but now you have to Google it with Davenport in it. Like my Quad City Times story will come up of what I did.
Ooh, that sucks.
But at first it used to be the first thing that would come up when you Google my name. Now I think I've done a well enough job of posting so much shit on social media that it's kind of buried it.
SEO, baby. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to know, just fucking Google my name and put Davenport, and it'll come up the Quad City Times article. I hope they soon do an article of the plane actually landing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and that was another tough thing that I think I was dealing with, was that everybody knew what I did.
You had a smear on your name.
Yeah, and then the funny thing is that when I would talk to people about it, they would say, I had no idea. So I'm walking around thinking that everybody has this notion of me, and then they had no idea what the fuck I was doing. They didn't care.
People have their own shit, man.
Yeah, they don't care about us.
Yeah.
Not the main character. So, yeah.
Everybody has their own little worlds and so much crap going on. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's been a good conversation. I learned a lot. I didn't know that you worked the steps. I've also worked the steps. It's one of those things where you're like, even if you're not an addict, it's not a bad idea.
Exactly. And that's
inventory.
I told my daughter that.
Yeah.
I said that, I worked all these steps, and I said I think everybody should work these steps. Like, why isn't everybody learning this? I think because we were talking about a higher power. And I talked to, and then that's how I got it. But yeah, I think everybody should.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's not gonna hurt you. That's for sure. And then everybody's like always gets hung up on the fourth and fifth step every time, dude. Like, it's like, really, it's not. And luckily, a friend of mine was like, "You have an advantage with the fourth and fifth step because you grew up Catholic." Because you went to confession. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Except for confession, I wasn't always fully honest.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I cussed to my mom. I lied.
Yeah.
I cheated on my test. Like, that was my confession back in Sacred Heart Cathedral. So,
Yeah, Sacred Heart.